Well, we all get excited when a relative or friend decides to get married, but there's usually an incredible amount of work and planning that goes into it. Usually that means stress as well. And today's guest is an expert on these kinds of things and joins us from Medicine Hat, Alberta. Kim Friesen is a wedding planner and the owner of Weatherwood Events. Good to have you with us today, Kim. Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to join you.
Awesome. Okay, we are still in the height of wedding season right now, and planning for weddings certainly can be stressful. There are so many details. Where do you start? Do you need to look at the big picture first, set a budget and a date?
Yes, every client that I speak with, we start with budget. And that's the most important thing because everything reflects off what their budget is. So, for sure, when you start working with me, that's the first thing I'm going to ask you is what is your budget for this wedding?
What if you don't know? It's like, gee, I don't know. I've never been married before. I've never been engaged. I don't know where to start. Do you kind of help them do you ask questions to just sort of guide them to what a good budget might look like?
Yes, and I can outline some of the basics, like your venue costs, your food costs, what kind of food do you want? And then I start to show them what their budget will look like. And really it's about finding what's your maximum and um and then we go from there. And then we have to get creative sometimes,
Yeah, it's like
which
how
is
much are you
fun.
willing
Yeah.
to spend? How much debt are you willing to go into over this? And yeah, no, exactly. How far in advance should couples be booking the wedding and reception venues?
We're seeing things really change. Actually, post COVID, I have clients that are booking up to 2 years in advance. I also did a wedding in March. We only had 3 months. So it can be done. It's just you have to be flexible. Are you flexible with your dates? Are you flexible with your venue? But if there's particular venues and a particular date you want, then for sure a year in advance is a great place to start.
Wow. Okay. So if it's an outdoor wedding, of course, these can always be iffy. So what are some of the key points in planning something like this?
Well, we are in southern Alberta, so always having a secondary plan if you haven't booked tents.
Yeah.
Um,
With a
then you
windshield,
also
right?
have to, yes, absolutely, absolutely. I have taken weddings down and put them back up half an hour before reception start because of wind. So you just have to, there's a lot of things to take into consideration with weather, power. Do you have power supply? Washroom, adequate washrooms. Prep tents for your catering. There's lots of little details with outdoor weddings. And I think a lot of clients feel like they're going to save money by being outdoors. And in actuality, sometimes it can become more expensive. So, something to keep in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so decisions need to be made for who will be in the wedding party and what they will be wearing, including the bride and groom. So, any advice on this?
Yeah. Usually, when a client begins working with me, they've already picked their colors, they've already picked their wedding party. That's kind of
Ooh,
the first thing most
well,
clients
they were
do. So,
well
then
ahead of
when
me
I'm
then.
yeah, and I think a lot of girls, a lot of clients have been thinking about this since they were little, and so they've got those things in their head. So, just advice is to make everything cohesive. So, if you've already picked your color palette, then your whole wedding should reflect that. And most girls do, but yeah, good start point.
Oh, that's great. So one of the challenging things, of course, can be deciding who to invite and who not to, right?
Yeah. And you know what? I think a lot of girls feel pressure from people once they find out they're getting married. They feel this pressure that they want to invite them as well, or even from guests that they want to be invited. And so I always recommend a list A and a list B. And so your list A is your must-haves. And if you're having a small wedding, that the list B is great because then as you get RSVPs that maybe they're declining to attend, you can go to the next list and start adding people in. But I think because we're seeing such a huge increase in pricing of food, of like literally everything, your flowers, everything, stick to your limit. And if you've hired a planner, we've gone over your budget. We know already what your budget's going to accommodate, how many people stick to it.
Wow. Okay, good advice there. What are some key points in deciding on food for the reception? You mentioned the price of food now going up, but
Yeah,
something
I
to
mean, and you
consider.
can choose buffet and plated, and I've seen some really creative ideas out there. Food trucks is a great idea. I've done a brunch wedding, which really decreased the food costs. We've done pizza parties. One client did a taco bar. Like, there's lots of really creative things you can do if you can get away from the idea of a really fancy plated meal. So that also helps with staying in your budget.
Okay. What about lining up the right photographer and a videographer and finding the right time and place for wedding pictures? So many things.
So many details. Yeah. And your photographer really is another important part of your decision. My recommendation is always to go on their Pinterest board or their Instagram or their Facebook and see what their style is, because every photographer has a unique editing style. Some photographers edit really dark photos, some photographers edit really bright, really colorful. So you have to kind of choose what style you like. And then it's really important to meet with them face to face. Do you feel chemistry between the two of you? Are they energetic? Do they give you ideas? Because unless you're really good at positioning yourself for photos and you have a lot of creative ideas, that should be guided by your photographer. So that initial meeting with them is super important for a client.
Okay, good advice. So, hiring a wedding planner is an extra expense, of course, but obviously, some people believe it is well worth it. Now, you're a wedding planner yourself, so you might be a little biased on this one, but what are your thoughts?
Selling wedding planning is probably hardest because you don't know you need it until after. Um, my biggest point to a client is that when you're investing 20,000 and more, it's worth enjoying your investment. So a wedding planner alleviates the stress, takes all the details off your plate. You can just enjoy all the extras you have to do. But I also will save clients a lot of money. I have great connections. I've done hundreds of weddings, so I know what is necessary, what isn't. Make sure that you have all the details in place. It's not only an investment in having a stress free wedding, it's also an investment in saving you money, which is a hard sell when you have to pay for a planner. But I'm there to, if we have weather issues, it's my decisions that will take over. You don't have to worry about it. I have hemmed bridesmaids' dresses, I have made quick boutonnieres. I'm just there to handle all the extras that come up in a wedding.
Yeah, I know for me, Pinterest and Etsy were basically my wedding planners. I did everything myself, so I use those as great inspirational tools for sure. But I could have certainly used some expert advice for sure. So, what got you motivated to start an event planning business like this?
I was working as an executive assistant. One of my main roles was to help plan her business parties and events. She had several businesses that she owned. And then it just morphed into more administration. And I did that for about 7 years. And then my daughter got married. And I've done planning. I can do this. I planned her wedding and I found that I missed out so much of her day. I was so busy taking care of all the details. And looking back, it was a huge regret for me. I didn't just relax and enjoy her day. I was making sure everything was getting set up. And then I get a text, please come up. We want to zip up her dress. I just missed so much of her day. And so I did a little bit of research, found it was an area that was missing in our Medicine Hat and Southern Alberta area. And so I took some courses, got some training, did it my business plan, and dove in. And it's been a really great career. I love it. I love working with my clients. I love the day. It's a party. It's just a really positive business to be involved in.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
that's wonderful for you. It's sad that you missed out on some of those key moments of her wedding. And yeah, no, I totally understand with having, yeah, things. I mean, like things do happen on wedding days, right? And people forget things, something breaks or it gets misplaced. So, do you think it's essential to have someone assigned to oversee things and to have maybe that so called runner at the ready to go get things?
Well, as a wedding planner, yes. If you absolutely cannot hire a wedding planner, there's lots of other options. Even having me come on board to help you plan. There's those kind of options available for girls if they can't actually have somebody at their day. And if that's the case, I would highly recommend point people. and get yourself together a little kit of how to deal with emergencies like hemming and flowers that are coming apart and all those kind of things. But have a point person so that you, as the bride or even as the bride's family, don't have to handle the things that come up. One of the things that we don't remember is that if it's your wedding or your daughter's wedding or your son's wedding, you are so emotionally invested in the day. It's sometimes hard to step back and handle an emergency quickly and efficiently, which is something a wedding planner does because I'm not emotionally impacted by the day. So I can make those quick decisions and I can sit down and come up with a plan of how are we going to handle this. And yeah, I think it's well worth the money, but like he said, I'm a little bit biased.
Yeah, no, totally makes sense. Okay, so back to the basics here. Any thoughts on wedding decor or colors or choosing wedding flowers?
Oh my goodness, like you said, Pinterest, it's our
Yeah,
planner. And
yeah, it was my
um
best friend.
oh,
Really.
absolutely. And it can be your worst enemy too. So that's the other thing I tell girls. As soon as we've decided on what your decor is going to be like, we don't look at Pinterest anymore because then there's just so many ideas. It overwhelms you. But to keep your wedding cohesive, have your fonts matching, have your colors matching, have it go throughout your whole day is the piece of advice I would give girls when they're planning their wedding. And just there's lots of trends, and trends will always change because we're always trying to keep our market, right? So this is your day. Make this a day that you love, that's about you and your partner. And yeah, just everybody else will have their opinion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, speaking of opinions, I could have used your expert opinion that day. I personally struggled with picking colors. I don't know why. I just like too many colors, I guess. It was like the hardest decision for me. It was funny. So, and of course, like afterwards, what about having a setup and cleanup cruise? I guess that's before and after. Would that be
yes,
like the
and venues
wedding?
are starting to offer that as a service, and it's a service I offer as well. A cleanup crew, we come in because a lot of venues have such strict timelines. So your music's off at 12:30 and your bar is closed by 1 and you have to be actually out of the venue by 2 a.m. It's Nobody wants to do that. It's pretty melodramatic after your wedding to have to clean up. So have a team, assign a few people, have the jobs outlined, and make sure they're people that you can trust, that they're not going to be having enjoyed their day too much and are inebriated or whatever. Like, just make sure you have a really good team that will load everything up and a good plan in place. There's a few things most clients don't consider when they come to me, and that is your cleanup and also how you're going to get to your place for the night, how you're going to get away from your event. They plan everything up to, but it's the after that is forgotten. So that's a huge recommendation for girls that are planning their own day.
Right, good advice there. Also, maybe like remembering to get your marriage license. Again, get the clergy, the officiants lined up. There's a lot of details.
Yes, there is. And that's really important. You can get your marriage license up to 3 months in advance. Make sure you have pieces of ID. Make sure you know your parents' names, maiden names, and that both of you have to be there. So those are just, yeah, some little details about your marriage license. And also with your clergy, whoever you are going to hire, whether it's an officiant or a clergy, or I know a lot of girls are choosing that officiant for a day. Again, make sure that you've met them face to face and you feel compatible. That's the most important for me, my opinion. The most important part of your day is your ceremony. You're covenanting together for life. So make sure the person is, you feel comfortable with them, that they can make it personal for you. And just that face to face with them beforehand is really important.
Hmm. I've heard of weddings where they forgot to make seating arrangements for the reception. So that could also add some extra stress, I suppose.
I said it's like walking into the high school cafeteria in grade 8. Where do I
Oh
sit?
no.
And I think having a seating chart or place cards shows your guests that you actually have thought of them. And it makes you, as a guest, feel like you're an important part of this day too. It also alleviates that confusion. If you aren't having a seating chart, you have to plan for extra tables in case there's empty spots at a table, that people have a place to go, that you're not separating couples. I always recommend either place cards or a table seating chart. So important.
Yeah. If the couple is having a dance, any advice on preparing for that? You probably need to be aware of who's in attendance or maybe age groups or cultural groups.
Yes, and comfortable shoes. So often girls are sending out on their invitations, what is your preferred? Do you have a few songs that will get you up on the dance floor? Which is a great idea because then you're hitting all the age groups that are there. You're hitting all the genres of music that will be represented. So that's a really great addition for your wedding invitation is let me know your favorite dance songs. And then if you give that list to your DJ, you know you're going to have a great dance party.
Awesome. We're about out of time here, but really quickly, any final advice for those planning a wedding in the next while?
Hire a wedding planner. My best piece of advice. um, yeah, we'll save you money and we'll give you a great day. And just to remember that it's your wedding day and you're going to get so many opinions and it doesn't matter because this is your day and you want to remember it as something that really reflected you as a couple, reflected your love story. That's probably the biggest piece of advice I would give.
Great advice. Thanks so much for your expertise today, Kim. Great having you on.
It was my pleasure.
Absolutely. Kim Friesen is a wedding planner and owner of Weatherwood Events in Medicine Hat, Alberta.